Hello everyone, this is Kevin Bryant, aka Narlyteeth of Magic and Mirrors, and I wanted to show you some of the things that we've been working on for this new patch for Nelo. So let's get started. So the other thing I wanted to show you today is basically what we did to the controls of the game. We pretty much remapped the entire control scheme on both the gamepad and mouse and keyboard, and I'm going to show you that right now. Basically, this is the new control layout for the gamepad. First thing you might notice, A button is now jump. I made the decision to make A jump because, one, that is a common request and it is pretty trivial to expect jump to be A. I've always liked jump being LB, being kind of like a bumper jumper in a lot of the Halo games back in Halo 3 days and stuff like that. It made it easier to aim and jump simultaneously because you don't have to take your thumb off the right stick just to jump. However, I think it'll be fine now because I removed the ability to soft jump, so whenever you tap the jump button, you just do a quick little hop and then you hold that more, you do your full jump. I removed that. So basically, if you just simply tap jump, you'll do your full jump. And I don't think it's really that big of a deal since you can, dive dash to cancel it anyway. So if you do want to do a quick little hop, you just jump, dive, dash. Another thing I did was the clicking down on the left stick is now your stance button. It is your crouch and is also your dive down. So basically, it's mapped by direction. So your clicking left stick is your all-purpose move down button. Your all-purpose move up button is A, which is jump and wall jump. And then obviously holding down Y to do a rocket thrash. That hasn't changed. The last thing is the LB is now combines dodge, sprint, hyper blitz, and air dash all in one button. And I'll show you how that works in a bit. And then another thing you might notice is aim and omni-fire are now separate. They are now separate inputs. They don't have to do that vertical aim context sensitive anymore. So I'm gonna show you that. And I'm going to show you kind of how that works. Yeah, A is now jump. I can just, tap really quickly. I don't know if you can see this, but just a quick little tap and you jump your full height. And then, you do your wall jumps and stuff like that. And yeah, that's all kind of the same. So now, dive dash is the same button as crouch. And then the dash forward is the same button to get you to sprint. So you basically dash forward, and if you hold down the dash button, it goes from a dodge to a hyper sprint. There's no more air dash icon on the HUD because now air dash and dodge are essentially the same function. When you dodge in the air, if you hold down the dodge button, you'll do your full dodge. But if you just tap it, you do a quick dodge, and you can actually dodge multiple times in the air, which is really helpful for maneuvering around obstacles without even having to hit a wall. And then another really cool convenience about this new layout is dodge and dive dash are now separate buttons. We can actually dodge while on walls. And then we've even added it to where you can do a hyper blitz along a wall. So that part's pretty cool. Another thing is when you do air mailing, when you do aiming and air dashing, your fall speed slows down. So I definitely like the feeling of your character falling faster and stuff like that to feel less floaty and have a little bit more weight to them, and also add that extra agility by combining air dashes or doing multiple air dashes in the air. You can also, one thing that's a little bit frustrating is being able to aim while being able to do that kind of like Vanquish style, moving across really quickly while in the air, shooting all the enemies below you in slow motion is a lot harder to do because you fall a lot faster now. So basically whenever you're aiming in bullet time, your fall speed is reduced. And then same with like doing melee attacks where you do your air melee combos, you don't have to worry about you hitting the floor before you initiate your drop attack. So that part's pretty cool too. Another thing I wanted to show you with the air mailing, which is kind of more relevant to the topic of the air dashing, is just like you can use air dashes to cancel doing melee combos and stuff like that. You can do the same thing in the air now. So see? So basically the way like air dash works in the air is just like, it's just like the dodge mechanic on the ground, The only difference is there's no, so your character, when he dodges on the ground, he turns white for like a split second. Those are basically iframes. And I wanted some visual indication that there are iframes whenever you're dodging. And currently there are no iframes when you do an air dash. I'm thinking about adding that though. I definitely like the idea of maybe at least when you know, the first like split second, the first like fifth of a second that you do an air dash, you do have iframes. So yeah, that's some of the things that I've fixed up. And then the other thing is, like, you know, because there's no context sensitive thing for doing aiming and doing the Omnifire, they're now two separate buttons. So you can aim and you know, I can be looking at the floor and initiate an aim. I can be at eye level, I can initiate an aim when I want. I don't have to, like, you know, slightly look up to trigger the aim or have to jump to trigger the aim anymore. Don't need to do that because now Omnifire is mapped to RB. But now I notice that when you're in RB, you can't really, you know, use your finger for the trigger now. So you have to use, you just basically move the right stick. When you're using a mouse and keyboard, you still left click to fire, but when you're using a gamepad, you just use, you know, you just move the right stick around to start firing. Also, if you click the right stick, you can cycle through different firing configurations. You can do, like, you know, kind of an X-shaped thing, a little Y-shaped thing, and then you can go back to your default as you're an Omnifire. So I thought that would help make Omnifire a little bit more interesting. So another thing that's also interesting about, you know, now that aim and Omnifire are two independent functions, I was thinking, okay, what would happen if you combine the two? So now you can actually trigger basically like a kind of a bullet time aim thing in Omnifire. So it slows down time, but it also narrows your field of view, much like you would in aiming. So it kind of, you know, narrows your field of vision, but it's still, you know, made in a way to where that whole close quarter combat gameplay is there. And then along with that, I was like, you know, how about we add that same feature to doing melee attacks? So yeah, you can actually initiate the whole, you know, bullet time thing with melee attacks. Again, you know, narrowing your field of view just a slight bit, be able to have a little bit more reaction time whenever it's needed. Another really cool mechanic is shield and bomb is no longer RB, since that is Omnifire. That is now the B button. I thought about, like, you know, what could we do to make the shield mechanic a little bit more interesting? And because originally it was like, you know, it's 1 second of invincibility and 5 seconds to recharge, which is a really good, kind of a good, you know, get out of crazy situations moment. Well, what could we do to make, you know, make it a little bit more interesting if you're like a more skilled player? So basically I went with this almost like Gears of War active reload style thing with the shield. So when you activate a shield, you notice that there's a little tick mark on the gauge. So if you hit the shield button the same time as that tick mark, your shield lasts an extra like 2 or 3 seconds than it does before. If you miss it, then you just miss it. You just have to wait 5 seconds for your shield to go back. However, when you get that extra hot shield and you miss it, you're now not 5 seconds without a shield, you're 10 seconds without a shield. You know, so it's a much greater risk hitting the B button a second or a third time. However, there's also a greater reward. So if you keep your eyes peeled up there and you hit it at the right time, now you have a shield that's up for like 10 seconds. You're invincible for a really long time. You know, so it's a great reward, but also a great risk. But another thing that's awesome about this is, you know, it's because I noticed, like, you know, playing a lot of games like Gears of War, active reload does, you know, end up just turning into muscle memory, and I don't want people to rely too much on muscle memory. I think it's good for the first one, which I already missed it, but for the second one, the drain time, in fact, you might notice it doesn't start dropping until after a few seconds. That delay before it starts dropping is actually random. It's random by, like, you know, only like a half second or so. Basically, it encourages you to be a little, you know, to pay better attention when you're doing the active shield. You know, so you can't just, you know, muscle memory it. When you're doing fighting and stuff like that, you know, you're trying to keep your combo alive and you're under a lot of intense heat. It's just one more thing for your brain to keep track of. But hey, you know, when you do, it's very rewarding. So another thing I wanted to show you guys is you might notice that the HUD layout is a bit different now. And this is what the HUD layout looks like in the help menu from now on, where you can actually see the HUD elements more clearly, and instead of being overlaid over gameplay and stuff like that. And I tried to kind of better explain what these things are. I still need to explain the technique meter and how that works. It's our version of Devil May Cry's style meter, which is when your technique meter is low, that means you're using a lot of repetitive moves. And when your technique meter is low, you're using dull tactics and stuff like that. You're, you know, not trying new things, not trying new strategies. this prevents your combo from going up. When people are like wondering like why their combo isn't going up, that is why. It's because they're most likely using repetitive tactics. They're probably just only firing in the top-down mode, spamming X or whatever. They're just button mashing. It's kind of a system to keep people not being repetitive with their gameplay strategies, to try new things. And yes, I know enemy design also encourages that. However, I think you should be rewarded for being stylish. Crosshairs, they no longer have those little wings on the sides. Many people have mentioned that they're a little bit intrusive. They take up a lot of the screen space, so I moved them up here with everything else. The focus bar, technique meter, they're all at the top now. And then I made the crosshairs themselves a little bit smaller. They take up a lot less screen space now. As I mentioned before, the air dash now uses the dodge counters. Wall jump counters are still the same. The mobility status, which is the need momentum thing, that's made smaller, and it just kind of sits in between the wall jump counters and the quasar cores, and then obviously like your Zenith vision gauge and things like that. And then also actually, put explanation on the scanner node detector to show like, whether you're closer or further away from the scanner node. I don't want directional detection for the scanner nodes. I think that'll make them a little too easy to find. The scanner keys, instead of being called nodes, they're called keys, and I'll tell you why in a bit. And then credits and tokens, which were originally for another game mode that we're going to do, but we ended up scrapping it and not doing it. Though the way they worked, I thought would work actually pretty cool in the campaign, which is going to be the next big thing I'm going to talk about that's going to be in this game. So I hope you really enjoyed this update. I know it's taking a really long time to get this patch out, but hopefully you can see why. I can't wait to have you have your hands on this, so you can really kind of test drive this stuff. Many of the new systems that we definitely have good intentions for them. They will need a little bit more time to balance and tweak and stuff like that. We really enjoyed your feedback, and we definitely enjoy getting more of that so we can further continue to progress on polishing the product, as well as really thinking about what we're doing with the new content that are going to be coming in the next few months. So again, thank you very much. This is Kevin Bryant, aka Narlyteeth, signing off. Have a good week.
We, however, do have honor. So fight with honor. Fight for tomorrow. And fight for the chance to fix our mistake. We will find the hive, and we will crush it!